Roch Thériault was born in rural Quebec in 1947. His childhood was unremarkable, but he exhibited disturbing behavior, including torturing animals. Thériault dropped out of school at 14, drifting between odd jobs and displaying a knack for manipulation. He joined the Seventh-day Adventist Church, becoming deeply involved in their teachings. However, he craved power and influence, something the church couldn't provide. He began to develop his own twisted interpretations of religious doctrines. In the mid-1970s, Thériault started attracting followers with his charismatic personality and promises of spiritual enlightenment. He preached a blend of apocalyptic prophecies and unconventional health practices. His message resonated with people disillusioned with mainstream society. Thériault skillfully exploited their vulnerabilities, isolating them from their families and friends. He moved his followers to a remote area of Quebec, establishing a commune called the Ant Hill Kids. This marked the beginning of Thériault's reign as a self-proclaimed prophet. He demanded absolute obedience from his followers, who surrendered their possessions and severed ties with the outside world. Thériault had successfully transformed himself from an outcast into a revered leader. Thériault's charisma was his most potent weapon. He was a captivating speaker, weaving tales of spiritual grandeur and impending doom. His followers, yearning for meaning and purpose, hung on his every word. He promised them a utopian existence free from the corruption of the outside world. Thériault encouraged his followers to view him as a messianic figure, a direct conduit to God. He claimed to possess supernatural powers, including the ability to heal the sick and predict the future. Thériault enforced his authority with an iron fist, establishing a strict hierarchy within the commune. He occupied the top spot, followed by his multiple wives, whom he considered his chosen elite. The other members were relegated to the bottom, subjected to hard labor, meager rations, and constant surveillance. Any dissent or questioning of Thériault's teachings was met with swift and brutal punishment. Beatings, public humiliations, and prolonged isolation were common forms of discipline. Thériault controlled every aspect of his followers' lives, dictating their diets, clothing, and even sexual partners. He fathered numerous children within the commune who were raised in an environment of fear and indoctrination. Life inside the Ant Hill Kids commune was a stark contrast to the idyllic existence promised by Thériault. The reality was far more sinister, plagued by poverty, hunger, and disease. Thériault's bizarre medical practices worsened their plight. He believed pain and suffering were necessary for spiritual growth. The commune lived in constant fear of Thériault's violent outbursts. Beatings were commonplace, and some members suffered horrific injuries. Thériault forced his followers to assault one another. Children were subjected to the same harsh punishments. Thériault's paranoia grew, convinced the world was against him. He implemented bizarre security measures, forcing followers to dig bunkers. He declared himself the reincarnation of Jesus Christ. His grip on the commune tightened, and the violence escalated. The once promised utopia had become a living nightmare. As Thériault's power and paranoia grew, so did the violence within the commune. What began as beatings and psychological torment escalated into something far more sinister. Thériault began to perform crude surgeries on his followers, often while intoxicated and without any medical training. He would remove teeth, amputate limbs, and even perform makeshift lobotomies, all in the name of spiritual cleansing. The situation reached a horrific climax in 1988, with the death of Solange Boilard, one of Thériault's wives. Boilard, who had been subjected to years of abuse, died from complications arising from a botched surgery performed by Thériault. Instead of seeking medical attention, he kept her body in the commune for days, attempting to resurrect her through prayer and ritual. This gruesome act proved to be the catalyst for Thériault's downfall. Some members, who had long been too terrified to act, finally realized the true extent of Thériault's madness and began to secretly plot their escape. One by one, members began to flee the commune, risking everything to reach the outside world. The escape of several members from the Ant Hill Kids commune finally brought the horrors of Thériault's reign to the attention of the authorities. In 1989, after a tense standoff, Thériault was arrested and charged with murder, assault, and criminal negligence. The trial captivated Canadians with horrifying details of life inside the commune. Thériault, representing himself, claimed his followers were willing participants. Former followers testified, showing physical and emotional scars. They described Thériault as charismatic yet terrifying. The jury found Thériault guilty on all charges. He was sentenced to life in prison. The judge called him a dangerous individual. The victims and their families felt a sense of closure. Justice had been served. Thériault's reign of terror had ended. The Ant Hill Kids could begin to heal. Even behind bars, Roch Thériault remained a figure of morbid fascination, and to some, a spiritual leader. He continued to correspond with followers from his prison cell, maintaining a small but devoted group who still believed in his teachings. Thériault claimed that he was a victim of persecution and that his message had been twisted by his enemies. However, as the years passed, Thériault's influence waned. His followers drifted away, disillusioned by his lack of repentance and the ever-growing list of atrocities attributed to him. The once charismatic leader was reduced to a lonely figure, shunned by society and haunted by the ghosts of his past. Thériault's physical and mental health deteriorated in prison, suffering from diabetes and heart problems. He became withdrawn and reclusive, rarely speaking to guards or other inmates. The once powerful cult leader was a shadow of his former self, confined to a wheelchair, his body ravaged by disease and his spirit broken. Thériault's decline was a stark contrast to the power he once wielded. Roch Thériault died in prison in 2011 at the age of 63, marking the end of a dark chapter in Canadian history. His death reminds us of the dangers of unchecked charisma and the power of cults. The Ant Hill Kids' legacy underscores the need for critical thinking and skepticism. It teaches us to question those who claim absolute authority. The story of Roch Thériault holds valuable lessons for us all.